Hello there, and before I get on to what I thought of today's episode of Ahsoka, I'd just like to show you some new shelves that I've put up. And as you can see, it homes my Lego sets very well. And I can display much more than the little unit just over there that will now be housing not only my display that I was creating with the Lego alternative bricks, but also any bigger mocks I decide to make, as I would like to expand from the base of a diorama a little bit. But taking a look at these shelves for now, you can see the top shelf's a bit bare. You've got the gauntlet, but besides that, there's not too much going on. You've got Hedwig in the corner. I'll put up images on screen now so you can see. There's also a Pudsey, and I've started to modify my Mandalore dual set. And you might see top right corner, there is also a Dark Trooper attack playset, which I will be building in tomorrow's video, and stay tuned, because I'll be turning two of these into a diorama. And there's also the Lego Advent Calendar I'll be building throughout December. So I'm not opening it early, but I am looking forward to getting all the figures from that set. And a shelf down is where we've got most of the action, especially when it comes to the Clone Wars, which, if you don't know, is my favourite era of Star Wars. And we start off with BD1 and the Halloween set that I've recently reviewed alongside the Christmas polar bears. And we've also got my very first Lego set in this clone battle pack. Now you can see all the pieces are still there and it still looks amazing. I do have the troopers for this as well, though I may have modified them and given them all red arms for Ambush, the first episode of Clone Wars. But this sits nicely next to my two most recent sets, the AT-RT Walker and the Clone Turbo Tank, which are lovely to display. The Clone Turbo Tank might need to be put up on a pedestal or at least angled forward. And I've also got the latest Yoda Starfighter, which is replacing my old one from my collection, as it is just that much better. And if you want to see how better it is, do check out that video. But just behind it, I've got Tennu Temple and, of course, the X-Wing and TIE Fighter. I could not separate them. And if we take a look at this bottom level, which is going to be the focus for this first half of the episode before I talk about the episode of Ahsoka that we got today, you can see I've got a custom skiff that I will show these off in greater detail in a video soon. But that is what my custom minifigures were for. If any of you guessed, all the way back in my Firestar video, I believe I started talking about it. And I've also got the Lego Harry Potter one from the recent Make and Take event, September 1st at the Lego store, which I recorded my trip, and I've also sat it in my mannequin hand, which I have submitted for Lego Ideas. Now, I'm not hopeful this will become a set anytime soon, but I thought it was just a great build that some people may want. So I have uploaded that. I'll leave a link in the description. And if you want a Lego mannequin hand, I guess you can go and support me on that. But right next to it, I have the Slave One. Now, it is no longer Boba Fett's Fire Spray and is indeed Jango Fett's Slave One. I showed it off very quickly when I was counting my Star Wars minifigures. And if we take a closer look, you can see that I've changed all of Boba's colours to represent Jango's ship that much better. Now, I was very limited on what bricks I had and do not have the blue bricks just to replace the pieces. And most of these blue bricks are in fact from all my 501st battle packs that I bought, of the first one that came with the Walker and Speeder. And I think I've done a great job on it, and even put a custom Jango Fett in the middle, which uses pretty much all of Bo-Katan except for one of the old Death Watch helmets, which just looks like Jango. So it was really great that I could add that. And I also customized the front. Everything is made to look as it does on Jango Slave One. So I'm very happy with this build. And speaking of custom builds, I also have all of my custom speeders and Kenobi's Delta 7 here on display right at the front of my display. And all these ships and vehicles you can see on the top two rows of this display are available for purchase on Rebrickable. You can buy the instructions. I'll leave them linked in the description below, as well as all of my dioramas, which I've also shown countless times on this channel. And soon I'll have one more diorama. The instructions will be on Rebrickable as soon as that video is up. So be sure to head over there and see if you'd like to download any, as it does support the channel. But right before my episode summary, I'd just like to show off two new additions to my custom Ahsoka minifigures. So let's take a closer look at them. As you can see with my Sabine from the last week's episode, I have finally got the custom sort of pinky purple hair that represents Sabine very well. And there is perhaps a better hairpiece I can use out there, but this is the one that I found and just looks so much better than the helmet I had previously and just makes her look that much more like Sabine. Now, I've gone with the longer hair over the short hair as she doesn't cut her hair until she's in her Mandalorian armour. So perhaps I need to make another custom minifigure for that. But for now, I think this minifigure is good enough. And speaking of minifigures, I also have this custom Hyuang. I managed to find the minifigure in my collection. Actually, it was one of the sets that my brother had just given to me. And funnily enough, it was the only set that this minifigure came in. And the minifigure, of course, is the Echo Zane from Ninjago. You know how much we love Ninjago on this channel, especially when it comes to LEGO Star Wars custom minifigures. And the only thing really I've done to this minifigure is given it hands to match the colour of the arms and the rest of the body. I've also given it a brown backpack to represent Hyuang's backpack in the show, and also given it a dark blue pirate hat, which is just this piece with all the printing flipped around. I think this looks really cool as it's got a little monocle Hyuang has in this sticky out bit. Though Hyuang doesn't exactly have a dark blue head, he does have light blue pieces on his headpiece, which do form this shape of a pirate hat. So I think this is a cool representation with all the pieces I've got, without just resulting to buying the T6 and using that new moulded headpiece. So as you can see, once I've added Hyuang to the collection, we have a complete set of Ahsoka minifigures. Behind Sabine and Hyuang is Thrawn and Balon, Shmi, we then have Marok, we also have Morgan Elsbeth, and Ahsoka Tano. So I think between the 8 of them, I'll definitely be getting some mocks out in the next few weeks, and perhaps creating dioramas and ships to go with that week's episode. Speaking of which, now let's see what I thought of this week's episode. Hello there, so I've just watched today's episode of Ahsoka. It was the Dave Filoni episode, and what an episode it was. We start off on Cetos. Obviously Ahsoka and Sabine have been grounded with Hyuang, and he is getting to work on the ships when a HK unit shows up. It does interrupt what he's doing, and the power cuts out on the ship, which Sabine does blame Hyuang for, and I feel like, especially with her technological skills, there's definitely going to be some sort of clash there. However, Ahsoka knows exactly what it is, who showed up, and Hyuang actually puts up a fight to one of the HK droids that is approaching the T6. And it's awesome to see another little battle of the droids. I expected to see Chopper fight off some droids, but I never expected a fight from Hyuang. And Sabine armours up, Ahsoka ignites her blades, and they go out to confront the little fighters that were sent as a precursor of what's yet to come. Now, of course, when they're running to go and engage the enemy, they bump into Marok and Shin, who are sent to distract them and hold them off long enough for the ship to be ready to jump. And the one thing that Hyuang makes them both promise when they go off is not to split up. Well, Ahsoka makes somewhat quick work of Marok, especially using Anakin's fighting style, which is definitely different to the usual fighting style we see her using. Sabine is using her Mando ways and holding off Shin until she gets force pushed against a tree, guns flying, helmet off, which just shows how powerful it was. But she ignites her lightsaber, which used to be Ezra's hilt, and actually manages to put up more of a fight than last time, and it's sort of a rematch between Sabine and Shin. Anyway, Ahsoka runs off. Sabine says she can go find the map, and more importantly, come face to face with Balon, in which during the fight there's loads of speak about Anakin and the Order, as Balon did used to be a Jedi, much like Ahsoka, and both of them left the Order, one pursuing the light and one pursuing the dark. Now, it is made clear Balon thought the Order had many problems. However, unlike Ahsoka and still trying to do good, he is trying to bring back Thrawn to start another war, as Order can't be created without destroying something first. Well, at least that's what he believes. And when Shin shows up after their duel, Ahsoka is on the edge of the cliff and screams out Sabine's name because she thinks that Shin killed her, whereas Shin simply escaped and ran away from the fight, and that is soon known to her as Sabine very quickly shows up after. Sabine grabs the orb, which is the map, before Shin can get to it. However, when Ahsoka tells her to destroy it, she hesitates and Ahsoka is knocked off the cliff. I'm not saying we've seen a load of characters fall off cliffs and survive, but I'm very doubtful that Ahsoka is dead or anywhere near. We'll get to that in just a minute, because Sabine goes to shoot the orb and destroy it. However, Balon does convince her not to and to hand it over, and Shin has woken up from being knocked out by Ahsoka just before she fell and starts to choke Sabine, and Balon has to tell her a few times to stop because he has now recruited her somewhat, and they are going to find Ezra, and we are unsure what Balon's intentions are once they've found him. However, Sabine ends up going off on the Ring of Sion, and Hyuang finally fixes the comm on the T6 and is able to patch through to Hera and 4 or 5 of the X-Wing pilots from the New Republic that have joined her, trying to help Ahsoka. However, they are too late. The ring makes the jump, and they are caught in the middle of it, which gets them caught up in some hyperspace storm for a moment, as all their ships sort of malfunction. 2 of the X-Wings crash, 1 of them burns up, and they are left with just a Ghost and 2 X-Wings, which I assume next episode will land on Cetos, reunite with Hyuang, and we will go from there. However, now they have Sabine on the inside. I don't think Sabine has turned over to the dark by any means, but I think more so she is there. So they have a point of reference to make the jump that the ring just made. And if anyone can make the jump, it'll either be the Falcon or the Ghost, and as the Falcon's out of order, I think the Ghost will be the one to follow. However, we then cut to Ahsoka, who looks like she's floating on some water, but we soon realise that this is in fact the world between worlds, and who else to meet her there but her former master, Anakin Skywalker. Now, by the sounds of it, Anakin assumes she's dead. However, what I think is the case is she just managed to open a portal to the world between worlds, and either the Force decided she was worth saving to prevent this war and keep the balance in the galaxy, or there is some sort of connection she has made to the ethereal world of the Force, and much like Luke was able just to pass through it without dying on a technicality as he was just really tired. I think this is the case, and Ahsoka will be able to travel back. Perhaps she can even manifest herself in a different galaxy, which we've seen Luke manifest himself across the galaxy, but across a different galaxy would really be a feat that only Ahsoka could pull off. But next episode, I hope we see more of Anakin, as this is really the first time after Return of the Jedi we've seen him as a Force being after his death. So I'm really excited for the next episode, and let me know down below what you thought of this week's episode. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss next week's episode, turn on the notifications, and drop a like if you liked either the display I showed you earlier or my review of this week's episode of Ahsoka. May the Force be with you always.